Hello subscribers and non-subscribers, welcome back to another part of Verdun. I do want to say this, the only issue that I personally have with this game is the performance. Beyond that, personally I think this is a great game, especially when it comes to, well, World War One. Granted, it's pretty much the only World War One game on the market, especially when it comes to a World War One shooter, but nonetheless. Personally, I think it's actually a really great game. The devs are, to my understanding, working on the performance. If I were to actually go and try and join their group of beta testers, and if I was accepted into it, I would be able to obviously test out all the performance gains that exist. But to be honest, that's something I am too interested in doing because, for one thing, the beta is hosted on the EU servers. Well, I'm not in Europe, so for me, that would mean absolute garbage network connection to the server. So I would probably have pings somewhere between 100 and 200, and honestly, I'd probably be spending most of my time closer to 150 ms ping, which is not something I am particularly fond of doing if I can avoid it. So yeah, I'm not going to be joining the beta tests, especially anytime soon. If they were to have at least 1 or 2 US servers, then maybe I would join that. But beyond that, I'm not particularly fond, like I said, of joining their group beta testers. Because even though while that would, to my understanding, increase my performance quite a bit, because from what I've been reading, everybody who has tested it has said in the forums that they have gained performance. Like someone said they went from like 15 FPS on the lowest setting to 40 on ultra. Now of course I don't know what their exactly what the hardware in their system was. They didn't specify, so I can't like guess how well my performance would increase based off of comparing my system to theirs and then comparing the performance gains. But nonetheless, like I said, I'm not particularly interested in joining their group beta testers, even if that means more performance, because like I said, it's in EU, only hosted on the EU servers, and so my network or my ping would be higher than I like. I like to try and keep my ping maximum about 100, preferably. I can live with more at times, but like I said, prefer not to. I prefer to have ping that is less than 100. Obviously, as close to 0 as physically possible. But also, to my understanding, they don't really want you sharing anything from the beta. So, in theory, that would probably prevent me from being able to actually record footage and upload it. I mean, I could record it, and in theory, I could hold on to it until they eventually say, okay, now you guys can go and share all the beta stuff because we're releasing the beta onto the live servers. But I'm not particularly interested in holding on to a bunch of footage that I won't be able to use for who knows how long. I mean, I could easily have to wait just a week for it. I could easily then maybe have to actually wait a month or a year or however long it takes. So, like I said, not interested in doing that at all because I wouldn't be able to upload anything that I record. And EU server. So hopefully the devs will be able to release some of those performance gains that they've already tested out on the beta servers. Hopefully they'll be able to throw those up on the live servers in the relatively near future. I mean, hey, maybe they're holding out until Christmas. They're like, we're going to go and release it on Christmas for all I know. And if they do, that would be kind of interesting. But I definitely wouldn't put it past them. I'd probably do that as well if I was a developer. If I was like, okay, we could release the patch now, but you know what, there's a holiday coming up soon. Let's go and release it around the holiday so that we can go and be like, hey, yeah, it's our gift to you guys, the player base. So yeah, if I was a dev, I'd probably actually, in this case, wait until around Christmas. Probably the week before is when I would release it, personally. But nonetheless, Yeah, once the devs improve performance, this game will definitely get better. As it stands right now, for me to be able to really play this game with at least what is to me a playable frame rate, in this case more specifically 30 plus, because, well, 30 plus except the map Flanders. Flanders is a terrible map for performance for me. That's a map that I'm regularly in the 20s. But most other maps I'm at least able to hang out in the 30 plus range, more often about 40 or 50, depending on the map and where I am. So long as I just set the game to the lowest possible settings and lowest possible settings with all the post-processing effects off. So HDR, AA, things like that. If I have those all turned off, I'm able to, for the most part at least, get a playable frame rate in this game on most maps, except, like I said, Flanders. Flanders, I still get terrible performance, even if I have everything set to the lowest with all extra effects and whatnot turned off. I still get terrible performance on Flanders. Honestly, Flanders isn't really a map that I'm too fond of anyway, so that just gives me a reason to try and avoid it as much as possible. Because I would still play it. If I got good performance on Flanders, I would still play it. I don't like the map personally, but I would play it. But because I get bad performance on it, I personally would try to avoid it if possible. But for the most part, I'm not going to try and leave a server or a match just because I'm going to be stuck on the map Flanders for the next 30 minutes or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, hopefully the performance will improve in the relatively near future for this. Also, one of the things that I do like about this game is that matches, they vary, well, quite a bit in length. You'll have some matches that'll go on for, 7 to 10 minutes or something. You'll have another match that goes on for 30 plus minutes. So it's I kind of like how there is a lot of variety in the maps. And then they also, sort of recently, at least as of when I essentially started uploading some more footage of this game, they had released a new map, Fort or something, I don't remember what it's exactly called, but it's a fort map. And I haven't actually been able to play through all of the front lines on that map, simply because, well, generally speaking, it just ends up, at least in my experience so far, being a tug of war for the, I guess, the barracks-like area of the fort. So the area where you essentially just have a tunnel of death. That, so far from what I've been able to see, or when I've played that map, barring one time where I had joined the match, like at the end, but every time I've played on that map and I've gone through a full match from beginning to end, it's always been a tug of war for that central location. So none of us really managed to, or neither side manages to really push beyond that. Because once you take that barracks area, the other team will manage to retake it, and then your team will then take it back, and then you'll lose it to the enemy team who will manage to retake it after you take it, and just rinse and repeat it. Just, like I said, tug of war for that area. Which, like I said, prevents me from being able to really see what all the other lines in the map are like. So I'm not able to see sort of what the, I don't know, 3 Entente lines or whatever it is are like for that map, and then so on. And the opposite's also true for the Central Powers. So I can't quite say yet if I like that map. Quite yet. Though I do find it a bit of an annoyance, to a degree at least, but I think that's also one of the things that makes the map sort of fun, is that, like I said, you got a tunnel on the barracks section of the map where the tug of war occurs, and it's just sort of back and forth there. But like I said, You have two good spots for machine guns, and it makes it a pain to break through there if the enemy is able to set their machine guns up in just the right spot there, because there's only two ways into there. One way has very little cover, and what cover it does have isn't good enough to allow you to really fire back without exposing yourself, but as soon as you expose yourself, you're going to get mowed down by the machine gun. And that's also partially true on the other side, where you have sort of an actual tunnel that I guess is meant for vehicles and whatnot to get through. Well, and actually this is World War I, so not vehicles, but horses and carriages and whatnot. But that side, at least, there's a little bit of cover, because there's a window that you can use to shoot down the tunnel of death. And maybe if you're lucky, take out one or take out the machine gun. Which, if you can manage to take out the machine guns, then, at least in theory, you should be able to retake that objective fairly easily. But of course, if the enemy manages to hold that area long enough, then, well, you're going to lose that line of... I don't really want to say line of trenches, because, well, it's not a trench. But you're going to lose that front line. So... that, to me, it's kind of an annoyance, but again, I think that's also one of the things that makes the map kind of fun, is that you can sort of get, I guess, maybe a bit of an adrenaline rush trying to get through there, because as soon as you expose yourself, you're pretty much guaranteed to get shot. But if you manage to get lucky, you might be able to actually break through there, but it's going to require some effort to actually do that. But yeah. But as I was saying before regarding setting everything to lowest settings, yes, actually the game does, I'll be honest with you, kind of look like, well, it's not obviously on the lowest settings. It doesn't look like a modern game, graphics wise. I have actually said in the past, at least like on the forums and whatnot, the game looks like it's like the original Call of Duty does on PC when you set that to the highest settings. And actually the game looks slightly better than that, but in my opinion, not by much. So that's one advantage of, I guess, for the people in the beta, they'll be able to, at least for a lot of them, for one, be able to play on higher settings, and the game won't, like I said, look like it's the original Call of Duty. But like I said before, I'm not going to join the group of beta testers because, well, I'd have to play on the EU servers, and like I said, I don't believe I'd be able to actually upload any footage that I record on that, so it's kind of a waste of my time to bother, at least in my opinion. Because if I wanted to then be able to upload any recordings, I'd have to switch back to the live branch just to be able to go and do that, and that's not something I'm particularly interested in doing. So yeah, it's not gonna, like I said, not gonna happen. So hopefully, like I said before, the devs will release a performance update in the relatively near future. And hey, like I said, maybe they're gonna go and hold off until Christmas, and they'll be like, hey, this is our present to you guys, our players, and whatever. So we're gonna give you a massive performance update, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. It could. It could also just as easily not happen. So yeah, but I'm gonna go and actually cut this off here, and I do actually need to sort through some of this footage because I've got a ton of matches that are like a minute long, and I think I have one here that's like an hour. How the hell did that happen? How do I have a match that's an hour long? Seems very strange, and I get the feeling I might just be reading this wrong. But I need to find it. There it is. No, it's a minute 29. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, some of these actually look Like, some might have some messed up recordings that didn't properly go through. Yeah, I've got one that's like a second long footage. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to clean that up a little because some of those aren't actual, well, gameplay that I can use. But nonetheless, that's gonna be it. Like I said, for this episode, as always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Actually, wait, one last thing. There is a YouTube channel called The Great War, and I will hopefully remember to put a link in the description too. And they're doing a series that, well, talks about the Great War, hence the name of the channel. So they talk about World War One, and essentially they upload every week a video that sort of talks about the events that occurred that week in World War One. And as I said, if I remember correctly, I'll have a link in the description. If I don't put a link in the description, remind me to do so. Somebody, just anybody, I don't care who. But yeah, so now that's going to be it for this episode. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys next time. But until then, goodbye and farewell.
Sieg für das Reich!